covered in sawdust. What? We're gonna be the legs. We've never used a pocket hole jig or pocket hole screws before. We've also never built a cabinet. The poly finish process, in fact, did not go smoothly. Hi everyone, this is Lauren from the LKS Address. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are continuing on our family room project. We have previously completed our fireplace, which you can see right here. We have a 4-video series if you want to go back to that and check it out. We started with the brick fireplace and now we have a custom marble fireplace. We also customized our bay window and cased it out. And now we're on to the next small project in the room, which is building walnut cabinets for each side of the fireplace. A couple months ago, Kam and I fell in love with these walnut cabinets from a furniture store, which happened to be $5,000 a cabinet. Now, we really like high design things, but I am cheap and I am not going to be paying $5,000 for a cabinet. So immediately I was like, we're going to build these cabinets ourselves. However, we have never built furniture, ever. We like to do IKEA hacks and customize things, but we have never built furniture from scratch. So it took me quite a bit of planning to figure out how we were even going to try to achieve this. And after all this planning, let me show you what we're gonna build and then we'll just get to it. As you can see in the renderings, we are planning for a walnut cabinet on either side of the fireplace. We are going to be building these fully from scratch. And as I mentioned, we've never built furniture before, so I am trying to keep this as simple and easy as possible. We are going to be assembling the cabinets using only pocket holes and pocket screws. Now let's go shopping for the walnut and get this project started. Another day, another trip to pick up wood. It feels like this is all we do lately, but we went to our favorite wood store, L Hardwood, and we got all of the box trim, which is the same box trim we use in our kitchen. We like to keep everything really consistent. And we also got a ton of double-sided walnut plywood because we are going to DIY our desired $5,000 walnut cabinets for each side of our fireplace. So if we can pull this off, which we've never built furniture before, we are essentially going to save what the cabinets would have been $5,000 each times 2, so $10,000. I think we just spent $750 on walnut. It's a no-brainer, right?
Find out. Stay tuned.
Cam isn't so convinced that we can build a cabinet, but I think we do a lot of things and we will figure it out. Okay, now that I showed you the plan for the cabinets, we are using 3/4 inch double-sided walnut veneer because we want the outside and the inside to be walnut. We have all of our pieces purchased, and then I made a cut list because I'm trying to be organized here. We're gonna have, this is for both cabinets, so we're gonna have 4 sides, 2 bottoms, 2 backs, 4 doors, and 8 legs. We were just talking through, we have to be very careful when we measure out the pieces because we want the grain to go in the same direction around the entire cabinet. We don't want some being vertical and some being horizontal. So rather than trying to be efficient with the wood cuts, we just have to make sure that we're thinking about the finished product. Also, before we start, we are gonna pick out the 2 pieces for the doors so that we have the nicest grain out of all the options of wood we have with us. So we're gonna start with that. And then we're gonna get cutting these pieces. We're starting off by cutting the bottoms of the cabinet. We're gonna cut from the easiest and less important pieces to the hardest and most important pieces so that we can get better as we go. We're taping off all of our cut lines so that we don't have any wood chipping of the veneer. I'm not really sure if this helped or not, but we still did it because it can't hurt. Once we got the 2 bottoms ripped and cross-cut, then we moved on to the side panels. We set up a stop block for this so that all of the sides were the exact same dimension. We tried to do this as much as possible through the project because the dimensions are really important to make sure that you end up with a square and well-built cabinet. The biggest piece of the puzzle for these cabinets were what were going to be the legs, because the legs are continuous all the way to the top of the cabinet, and we needed them to be walnut. So I went on a deep dive on the internet, and I found a company that does walnut stair parts. These are actually walnut balusters for a stair, and you can see that they have a section of where it's it's a squared off edge. And then they have a section that is chamfered, and you can order them in a couple different sizes. We are going to be using the chamfered edge at the door, and then the leg extension is going to be the squared off edge. I am pretty proud of this discovery, and I cannot wait to see how these end up looking. So we're going to cut these down to a size now. We're going to set up a stop block so that we know that they're all the same exact length. So we're not dealing with any, incremental lengths. And hopefully this is really quick. The walnut legs we ordered were 38 inches long, and we're going to cut them down to size. They're going to be approximately 30 inches tall. We'll have a 20-inch section of the chamfered and then 10 inches at the bottom, which is the squared off portion for the leg. We also used a stop block for this to make sure that all of the legs were the exact same height. Again, trying to keep our dimensions as consistent as possible. We got the bottoms and the sides of the cabinet built, so now we're going to do the bracing that's going to go across the top to hold it as a square box. We're going to be using pocket hole screws and this jig from Craig to assemble. So we want to make sure that our strips that are going to go to brace are going to be able to hold the two pocket holes with the jig. So we're going to cut down some 3-inch strips for each the front and the back of both cabinets now. I'm covered in sawdust, but we got a majority of the pieces of the cabinet cut so that we can get started assembling. So I'm going to flip you around and show you those. All right, we have the first set of pieces cut for both cabinets. On the left, we have the sides, then we have the bottoms, then we have the bracing strips for the front and back at the top, and then we have the backs, which is just a 1/4 inch walnut veneer. The rest are 3/4. We already cut our legs with the stop blocks, so we know those are all set and ready to go. So now Cam and I are going to watch a quick video on how to use this Craig pocket hole jig, since we've never done that before. And then we're gonna try to start assembling, which is very exciting. Okay, we got all our pieces brought in and we're trying to make sense of everything. Just because we've never used a pocket hole jig or pocket hole screws before, we've also never built a cabinet. So we just want to double check everything, and we're going to lay it all out. But we are going to start by first assembling our sides, which we have our legs that we cut, and then we have our side pieces. So basically we're going to have 2 legs, and then the side panel is going to attach to both of those legs. We'll be using the pocket holes here to attach to the legs. So that's making sense to us. What we're thinking we're gonna do next is we have scraps from the legs and we have plenty of scraps from the walnut plywood. I think we're gonna make a little mock-up and practice our pocket holes and make sure that everything is working before we do it on the real pieces. So we're gonna make that mock-up now and we'll show you that as well. We just finished our mock-up and it is so cute. That's basically what the cabinet's gonna look like, the legs, the sides. And I just wanna show you, we picked up the clamp from Home Depot and this is the side, it's hard to tell with the tape, but this is the side that we did not use the clamp. And this is the side we used the clamp. The joint is really tight, so that was the way to go. And then also something we noticed was the drill bit for the jig was getting jammed and not going fully to the stop. So these screws aren't in all the way. We noticed that doing this side and now they're fully in. So good thing we practiced and we know that it all works. So let's get assembling. I am so excited. Once we were feeling confident in our pocket hole skills, it was time to start drilling the pocket holes in our actual cabinets. One thing to keep in mind is that you want the pocket holes on the opposite side of the finish. So we had to think backwards on all of these and make sure that we were drilling the pocket holes into the back side of each piece. We did at least 2 to 3 on every single piece as we felt we needed. And we were using the 3/4 inch setting on the pocket hole jig and we screw them in with the fine threaded screws. Here's what the 4 sides look like. So they've each got 2 legs, and then the inside of the cabinet will have the pocket holes, as you can see, but they look really good, really, really good. I'm proud of us for just like taking this on, never building furniture before and just going for it. Now we have a couple little things to do. I have to add some edge banding on the bottom and the bracing pieces that are going to be at the front of the cabinet, and we have to add the feet onto the bottom of the legs before we assemble the whole thing so we don't have to turn it over. So we're going to do that next. As for the edge banding, we're using 3/4 inch walnut edge banding that is pre-glued. You iron this on and then it activates the heat. This is something that we just pick up off Amazon, and you can also go a size up, but I prefer to just do 3/4 inch, the exact same size of the material, because I find it's easiest just to sand off any excess, and then you can kind of fold it over the edge so it has a really nice finished look. Just got some of the pieces edge banded with the edge banding that I have. I'm out of it now, so we have to wait for Amazon tomorrow. But in the meantime, we're gonna get our feet installed. So the inspo cabinet had gold or brass feet that matched all the hardware. I ordered these off Etsy. They're cutting board feet, but they're gonna do just fine. I think it's gonna be easier to get these on the cabinets now rather than later and having to turn the whole cabinet around or whatnot. So I think we're gonna just install these and then tape them off while we finish the cabinet. So do that now. once we had all of the 4 sides put together and everything was edge banded, it was time to assemble the cabinets. This proved to be tricky. We had a hard time trying to keep everything tight and square, so we ended up getting 4-foot clamps so that we could clamp everything so that when we screwed it in, it ensured it was really tight. That worked out really well. Again, also using the fine threaded screws here. We attached the bottom first, and then we attached the bracings on the top side. It's a new day. We finished the first step of assembling the cabinets last night, and I'm gonna show you a quick check-in of what they look like. We also put them in place on each side of the fireplace just to make sure that the sizing was right and that we liked everything about them. We're so happy with how they're turning out so far. We have a couple more pieces to cut, and then also to brace the center of the cabinet, we're gonna be adding a vertical support that will then attach to both of the shelves. I wasn't originally planning on shelves in the cabinet. I thought it was gonna be shallow height enough where we didn't need a shelf, but being 20 inches tall, I think it makes sense to add a shelf, and it will help with the overall sturdiness and construction of the cabinet, so we're gonna do that. I think we have to pick up extra wood, so I'm not sure we're gonna get to it today. We're gonna do everything we can with all the wood we have and try to make as much progress as possible and pick it back up next weekend. So let me show you what the cabinets are looking like right now. This is the first cabinet. This is complete for now. We have the 2 front pieces which have the edge banding that we applied, and it's looking really good. We have to still add that center support, build the shelf, cut the doors, and build the top. The top is going to be the most complex, so we're probably going to do that last, but we'll see where we get today on everything. Just got the cabinets measured so we could calculate the door sizes. So the doors are typically 1/8 inch smaller than the cabinet size. For our cabinets, we're doing 2 doors on each cabinet. Our doors are going to be 1 foot 11 7/8 inch by 19 7/8 inch. 2 of those, and then the other cabinet is just a hair 1/16 off. So we'll cut those separate and we'll make sure they're labeled so we know which cabinet they go to. After the cabinets were fully assembled, it was time to cut our doors. This was intimidating because we did not want to make a mistake and ruin the wood. We ended up doing all of the cuts on our miter saw. As you can see, we're flipping the piece over. We feel like using the miter saw provides a lot more accurate of a cut. So what we'll do is do one side and then flip it over and make sure that the blade is in the same groove from the first cut. And 9 times out of 10, it will provide you a really nice lined up cut. So we got all of the doors cut, and then it is time to edge band them as well. Finally got all of the pieces for the walnut cabinets cut and dry fit. I also worked the whole week on finishing up the edge banding on the doors, and they are looking so good. Now I have a couple more pieces to edge band. We just finished cutting the shelves and the middle support. Just got to get those edge banded, and then it is time to assemble and start prepping for the finish. As I mentioned, I wasn't originally planning on a center brace or shelves, but as we built the cabinet, we felt that this was essential to stop the cabinet from sagging in the middle. These are pretty wide cabinets at 4 feet. So adding this center brace that we screwed into the top and the bottom, and we attached the shelves with pocket holes into the sides, made this cabinet extremely sturdy and square. Did a quick outfit change because we were filming the bay window reveal, which has already been posted. So if you haven't seen it, you should go check out our bay window makeover video. But Cam and I just finished assembling the walnut cabinets. We are very close to being able to work on the finish. We've been testing some finishes today, so I will share that with you once I have it all figured out. And all we have left to do before we can work on the finish is assemble the tops and then add the hardware, the hinges to the fronts, just to make sure everything is good to go. And we'll get started on the finish. But hopefully I can get it figured out. It's been a little tricky. So I've done a couple test pieces, experimenting with things I read on the internet and just making sure that we're really happy with the finish that we're putting it on so we don't have to do this twice. Got a couple options here. The first option is shellac. This is shellac only, and we would coat it, a clear shellac, and we would coat it with a finished layer of poly. Then we experimented with tung oil. This is what we did for our coffee bar walnut in our kitchen, except we did tung oil plus a layer of water-based poly. I think this looks really, really nice. We have a satin finish, so it looks finished, but is not shiny. Lastly, I wanted to just see what it looked like with only poly, so I took our little mock-up. But when we did only poly, it's like raising the grain and making the grain way more pronounced, and I don't particularly like this. Even though this would be the easiest because it would only require poly, here you can see that it shows a lot more of the grain. Looks a little bit more rustic than what we're going for, so I think when looking at these two, I think we're going to go with the first layer of the tung oil and then finish it off with poly. So I think we've got it settled now, and we just have to start sanding the cabinets and get ready to finish them. And last but not least, we had to assemble the tops. So for the tops, I have no chill, and I wanted a solid walnut border around every top. So the center will be walnut veneer surrounded by a walnut border. Again, I challenged myself to create this entire cabinet by only using pocket holes and pocket screws. So we did the same thing here. We cut the border down to size, and then we drilled pocket holes in the top and some of the border pieces, and with wood glue, and assembled it together. We got better as we went with keeping them flush, and some of them we redid twice, but overall, after we got it sanded, it looked flawless. As for sanding, I sanded the tops of each cabinet with the orbital sander using a 320 grit sandpaper. On the veneered sections, you have to be extremely careful not to over sand and sand off your veneer. I focused mostly on the solid walnut sections. I added some walnut wood filler where needed, although I don't think it was necessary in the end. Once we got the finish on and the poly and everything wrapped up, you can't really see any of the gaps anyways. So that might have been overkill, but this gave the top a really smooth and professional feel. I feel like I've already said this multiple times that we are almost ready for the finish, but this is the literal last step. We are using the Craig hinge jig to drill the holes for our hinges. We want to do this before we add the finish just to make sure that we don't damage the fronts or anything and that we're good to go once the cabinets have the linseed oil and are polyed. So exciting. The cabinets are fully prepped for the finish. So today I'm going to start applying the tung oil to the cabinets, the doors, and the backs, which aren't on yet. And after a day, I'll go back in and start using the spray poly in satin, and we'll get these cabinets finished up so we can get them fully assembled. The doors hung, the back on, and then add the hardware. I am so excited to see how these turn out, and hopefully the finish process goes smoothly. Okay, this is the exciting part where the magic starts to happen. We are applying Minwax, the linseed oil, with a lintless rag. You just have to wipe it on. It's very easy to apply. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it goes on very even, but it has always dried even in our experience. We're only gonna do one coat because we feel like that brings out the richness. And then once it dries, as I mentioned, we will start the process of adding the poly. Getting ready to wrap these walnut cabinets up. Our basement is a spray booth again. We've got all of the pieces to spray on the satin water-based polyacrylic. Gonna do 3 coats of this, so this is just the first coat with a very light 320 sand in between. Let me show you the cabinets and then we'll get started. Also got the cabinets on this side. We haven't attached anything, the tops, the backs, or the fronts, so that I could have maximum ease of getting into all the little nooks and crannies with the spray. So hopefully this goes pretty quick. I'm assuming it's going to be about 10 to 20 minutes, but we'll see how long it actually takes per coat. Spoiler alert, the poly finish process, in fact, did not go smoothly. As you can see, once we started spraying on the poly, we were getting drips. I've never had this happen before. I've used this product before, and it was pretty frustrating because we were very concerned about having a very professional and nice finish. Come to find out, this product is not really our friend, which you'll find out more on that soon. All right, cabinet update. I have been wrestling with the finish on these cabinets for days. I have been trying to do extra coats of spray poly, and every time I do it, it seems like overspray is getting on other areas and making it not even. You can kind of see it here, like there's some white spots. Like it has like a white haze on it that I can't get rid of, and the finish is starting to get really rough, and I'm not happy with it. So I just went back to the original method of like when we stained our windows. I brushed on the poly. So this cabinet to the left, I just brushed on a coat of poly and it looks fantastic. Like you can see it's rich, it's even, it's got that nice sheen. And then this one right here has the spray poly. So lesson learned, I'm not going to use the spray poly ever again. I don't think it gives a solid enough coat. And again, the overspray is flying all over the place. Less controlled, definitely brushing on in the future. And we use the brush that the directions said. I think it's like a synthetic brush, but you should check your poly in the future. So now I am going to brush on a coat on these cabinets. And then I had finished doing the 2 tops and the 4 doors, and I'm going to brush on a coat here too, just in case so that everything looks really consistent. I'm worried that if I only brush on the cabinet, these will end up looking a little different. So that's where we're at. Lesson learned. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way, but it's okay because it did not ruin the cabinet and they are looking really, really nice. After the poly was fully cured, it was time for final assembly. We flipped the cabinets over onto the top so that we could screw in from the bottom. I double checked all of our measurements to make sure that the top was centered perfectly on the cabinet, and then we used our favorite tool, our hole punch, which provides a little divot for the drill to go into. We pre-drilled all the holes, and then we attached the top with 1.25 inch screws. After that, we installed the Bloom hardware. This is the same hardware that we found on our IKEA cabinets in our kitchen. It's really nice hardware. And to keep this very easy and straightforward, we use this hardware because we just were able to measure the position on our IKEA cabinets and use that as our rule of thumb. Once we had the hinges installed, we were on to the last step, which was nailing on the back panel. This back panel is 1/4 inch walnut veneer. We marked the spots for the center brace and the shelving so that I had additional spots to nail into, and we just used our brad nailer to get this done. You could probably screw in too if you didn't have a brad nailer, or even glue it, and I'm sure it'd be fine. Now it's time to put the jewelry on the walnut cabinets. We love the minimal look of our knobs in our kitchen, so we're using the same ones for these cabinets, and they will coordinate as rooms that open up to each other. So with that, let us show you our completed custom walnut cabinets. Now that you've seen the walnut cabinets, want to quickly touch on how much these cost us to make versus the original cost of our inspiration cabinet. So as we mentioned, the inspiration cabinets were $5,000 each. So that would have been about $10,000 plus tax and delivery, which is outrageous. In the end, these cost about $565 each to build. We're going to leave a link in the description to a blog post with a full budget breakdown of everything we used. So we saved about $9,000 on these cabinets, and they're also solid walnut inside too. We're really happy with them, and I would do it all over again, even though it is time consuming. If you do not have the money to spend and you want high design things, you can always find a way to DIY them. And with that, we're going to wrap up the video here. We hope you enjoyed this video building our walnut cabinets from scratch. If you want to build these and have any questions for us, please leave a comment below. We're always happy to help and answer any questions that come in. And with this being done, it means that we have one more project, small project in our family room until the final reveal. Cam and I have been working on this for about 6 months, so we cannot wait to finish it up and show you the final result. So if you like this video, please thumbs up the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.